So I built a dirt pad so that my neighbor could build this shop on it. He needed a shop because he's got a classic car, and the only way to insure a classic car is it has to be fully enclosed in a building, which is something that I didn't know, but you can't just have a classic car sitting in like an open air carport and get insurance on it. So he needed to build a building, so he called me up. He's like, hey, I got to get this building built. I need a couple loads of dirt so that we can build a little pad for it. So I came over, looked at it, and I was like, hey man, look, in order to do this correctly, we need to scrape off the grass and we need to backfill with some nice clean clay, track it in and slope it off a little bit so the water doesn't sit on it. The reason that you got to scrape the grass off is because if you just put clay on top of the grass, that organic material will decompose over time, and when it decomposes, it shrinks. Some of it turns into gas and other byproducts, but the actual mass of that organics shrinks down. And when it shrinks, you end up with air pockets underneath the slab of your building. And when you have air pockets under there, the concrete's not well supported and it can sink or shift or buckle if that air pocket's big enough. So it's always a great idea to go ahead and remove the topsoil, grass, anything organic until you get down to good clay, which we're in Louisiana. If you live up north, sometimes they'll dig down and anchor straight to like bedrock or shale or something like that. But here we remove the organics till we get to good clay. Then we bring in some more clay to build it back up and increase the elevation to where you can have a slope away from your foundation. And that keeps water from intruding underneath your slab and into your building. So you always want to build it up a little bit so that you can have a slope away from it. So once we built the clay pad, he was able to go ahead and order the concrete, get that poured, and then build his shop on top of it. As far as any local zoning or permits, we didn't go that route. We just didn't say anything and went ahead and built this building. Now, that's acceptable where we're at because there's a building right next to it that we did pull permits and everything for so that we could get utilities, electric, water, and then we just piggybacked off of that one, ran electric underground to the new building. So there was no permitting or zoning required for the new building because it doesn't have its own utility services. So compaction's really important when you have a new building going up, and when you're rolling over it with, say, a skid steer like I am, what I like to do is I like to build it up in about 3 or 4 inch lifts. So just a layer, instead of just piling a bunch of clay on, I'll build it up a few inches and I'll get a full bucket of dirt and I'll track over the entire surface, and then I'll build up another 3 or 4 inches and track over it. Now, if this was something like a house or something more valuable, you can also go and get a compaction test where they'll come out, they'll bore a hole into the pad and use like a radioisotope measurement to test how dense the material is, the moisture content, and how compact it is. So I used the laser sight level to make sure that the pad was level. And when I do that, you have a little stick and you have a gyroscopic mounted laser that spins. So the laser is always even. You have a stick with a reader on it and it'll beep where you're at. And so you got to make sure that the bottom of the stick is within your margin of the pad to make sure the entire surface is flat. On something like this, I usually gauge for within 1 inch of the entire surface of the pad. So we didn't have to perform any soil tests for this. That's more likely to happen if you're doing an industrial, commercial, or state or federal kind of job. They may be a little more stringent on what kind of soils can be used and what sort of soils can be underneath and around specific buildings for different reasons. So we didn't have any challenges or issues on this particular job. Luckily, it's right next door to my property, so I was able to haul the clay in without even driving on the road. super convenient. I didn't have to transport any of my equipment to the site. And this area is already sort of a level, grassy area, no tree stumps or anything. So this job actually went very, very smoothly. From the time we started ripping up the grass to the time I had everything leveled off took about 4 hours. Looks like we got a storm coming in. That's all I have to say about this dirt pad. Appreciate you watching. If you enjoy this style of video, definitely give us a thumbs up and leave us a comment. And if you didn't like it, also leave us a comment. And as always, we'll see you on the next one. I got to get out of here before it starts raining.